today we're going to talk about your new speakers.
Yes, the iLoud MTM. Welcome, everybody.
This is David.
Thanks, Warren. Welcome, everybody. Most of you probably already know the iLoud micro monitors. It's a very small studio monitor, reference sound, so we wanted to provide something reliable to mix your music on in a very small package. And that has become extremely popular, and people is liking them a lot. Then we wanted to continue in that direction, which is making mixing and taking decisions on the audio easier. And we started studying the typical problems that are typically associated with studio monitors. And we found that one of the most important issues is phase response. Typically, unless you go very, very, very high in price, I mean very high, you have a decently flat frequency response, but, well, the phase response is all over the place. And this is because typically the systems are 2 or 3 ways, and they use conventional crossovers. You know, the crossover is that part of the circuit that splits the frequency between the various drivers. And you have very strong phase distortions when you use conventional analog or conventional digital crossovers. So what happens there? It happens there that all the informations from the spectrum, from, let's say, 50 hertz to 20 kilohertz, are not arriving to our ear at the same time. So if you, for example, take a snare drum hit, you have the sound of the body, you have the sound of the little transient created by the stick touching the top head, and then you have the rattle of the snare behind the instrument. These 3 components that we are taking just as an example must arrive at the ear at exactly the same time. Otherwise, the brain has to work pretty hard to try to reconstruct this very familiar sound that is being recorded and played back from speakers if the phase is not coherent. What this means is that when you are there mixing your song and try to equalize that snare, you need to work more because the sound is not completely true to what is the recording. For example, then if you can switch this one. This is what we call an impulse response. It's the representation of what is happening during time. You see, the green is the theoretical impulse response one, totally clean. The blue is a typical competitor monitor of this size. You see that in time, there is more smearing of the event. And the red one is the iLoud micro monitor. You see that everything is concentrated in a shorter amount of time. This is because the phase response and time alignment of the speaker is totally coherent from 200 hertz up. To say this in simple terms, it's very comfortable to mix with them because your brain has to work less. We are not used to hear in nature a natural sound, like a snare drum, for example, split in frequency, of course. When we are in front of a snare drum, we hear the snare drum. It's there. It's not that the beat frequencies of the snare drum are coming from one place of it and the frequency from another, like it happens in a conventional studio monitor. That's why the iLoud MTM also has this symmetrical design, where you have your speakers placed in a symmetrical arrange so that they actually, even already at a very close distance, like 50 centimeters, the system works as a point source, meaning that all the frequencies are coming from the center of the speaker. This helps, together with the linear phase response of the speaker, to perceive a very natural and easy to understand sound information out from the speaker. This is really the main goal we wanted to get here, something that is through to reality and easy to be, and that can provide the useful information for the mix to be worked out quickly and more easier without having to work too much.
I think in simple terms, what you guys are trying to do is
Yeah.
bring things that we expect out of monitors that cost several $1,000s and try and, because this is what I would expect, out of my $8,000 pair of monitors.
Yes, to have phase coherency, which is
Yeah.
very specific.
Which is
feature.
very unusual in the
Yes.
in the lower end range pricing wise.
And we want to make it, with this product, we want to explain how important this is. And we think people, when they hear the monitor, they immediately understand, because the definition and the clarity of the representation, thanks to the flat phase response, it's really amazing. And it's even surprising, I would say, because we are not used to this.
Right.
So it's quite an achievement for a monitor of this size. That is still, it's slightly bigger than the original micro ones, but it's still a very portable and lightweight system.
Absolutely. Well, I use the iLouds, the smaller versions,
Yeah.
either side of my monitor, because I found that putting my screen in the middle of my console causes thousands of different issues, which are bigger than anything else. So I edit, and we do automation and small moves sitting by my monitor with the iLouds. And what I like about the iLouds is the high end is super detailed, which makes it perfect for picking up digital pops,
Right.
clicks, fades that weren't done properly, where you have a transient poking through. So I work like that around the monitor. So, and then I'll turn, and I've got my huge monitors over here, speakers over here, and have a different experience. So for me, they're very, very useful for that. And I retired I had a more expensive small monitor. I won't say who they are, it's not fair, but
Okay.
they were about 3 or 4 times the price.
Okay.
And I retired those because they were very mid-rangey and honky. And I like the detail. If I'm going to listen in that environment and have a small speaker, I want good high-end detail. That's the reason for having them.
That's
Because
very
they're also emulating a lot of what the real world is. Not everybody has $8,000 pairs of speakers to listen on.
No. Yeah.
So for me, it was they're pretty wonderful.
Thank you. That's very nice to hear. And yes, we think that has been a pretty revolutionary small monitor, and it went very well.
What are these a pair? How much do they cost a pair?
This will be $349 each.
Right. So, okay, $700, $699
per pair. Yes.
Yeah.
Another very, I think, important feature we have here is that the system can auto-calibrate to the environment by itself. I mean, just by plugging a measurement microphone that is provided with each speaker in the box, it literally takes 10 seconds to run a measurement, a very simple one, measurement in the sweet spot, to calibrate the monitor to the environment. This is very important because with a monitor like this, that in the end it's a portable device, you can really set up a monitoring environment anywhere, on a desk, anywhere. And, rooms are not always the best friends.
Right.
when you need to mix
Absolutely.
accurately.
So that is the next big step. Now, those of you that follow me closely know that I champion quite a few different, softwares. There's one in particular I really like that helps people out. Because most of us, frankly, most rooms have their issues. And guys like me who have consoles have this big low bump. Usually it's about 110 to about 150 because it just basically bounces off the console and comes straight back at you. Now, I've been mixing in that room for eons, so I'm used to it and I have to mix around it. Many of us have a home studio that might be, the office, and then the office gets turned into the second kid's bedroom, so you're moving it to the garage, and then maybe it's the corner of the living room. The reality is we're not in perfect situations. Very few people are, even in some of the best studios in the world. It's not necessarily the most even place. Now, with this, at $699, it comes with the software. Oh, and there it is. Thank you, Daniel.
That's the microphone.
And the microphone.
So the microphone is connected directly to the speakers. There are no need for any computer inside, any additional equipment. You see that switch that says desk, flat, and cal?
Yep.
If you go to that position, the system will generate some sweep chirps.
Yep.
And it will auto-calibrate the response in 10 seconds. This is actually a very nice feature to have it inside here. We use the ARC technology that is known for the software that we are producing. It's a simpler system here because you just need to take just one measurement position in front of the speakers. And this is also very nice because it can actually calibrate the monitor consistently, even if you are not exactly always listening in the sweet spot. You just measure it in a slightly different position to adapt the monitor to the second position. So that's truly a lifesaver in most cases.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's a huge deal. Like I said, most of us are in less than perfect situations when it comes to monitoring. Yeah. And obviously acoustic treatment is something we should and all should be doing, but even then, the only way to sometimes treat rooms is to like make boxes within boxes, you know, fly panels. That isn't practical in your living room. I don't know if I could go to my wife and say, hey honey, I need to fly a dome over my head in the living room. It's not gonna happen.
Or I need to make our living room from I would say 8 by 10 to 2 by 3.
Yeah, exactly.
After treatment, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So. So this is a huge thing. And look, let's be honest, it's a massive money saver. Most of that software and technology is about minimum $200 to $300. Yeah. So the fact that you built it in with the microphone is huge.
Yeah. Also, last technical thing I want to mention about this monitor is the low end. Of course, the monitor is very small. Yep. And so the response on the low end must be corrected somehow to bring it to linearity. This can be done with equalization. It's the normal way of doing that. But it gives issues because it's an equalized speaker. So it creates phase problems and time response problems. So instead, here, we are running a real-time model, a mathematical model of what is happening with these two woofers playing inside this cabinet. And in real time, the system is calculating the inverse response of that based on the actual physical model of the device. So this brings the response down to 40 hertz. It's a real 40 hertz minus 3 dB cut point with a fantastic effect on the time coherency, and so the result is a very tight, firm, and not loose or boomy response down to 40 hertz, thanks to this reverse physical modeling that is running inside.
40 is pretty huge for something that this is essentially this size.
Yes. Of course, the SPL you can expect is not like it's going to shake this room.
Sure.
But for regular listening levels that we are all using when mixing, it goes down to 40 hertz.
And this is a near field. We're going to have a speaker probably here and here.
Yeah.
You're going to be sitting like this.
Yeah.
You're not 6 foot back from the speakers, like, you know, lying back here. Like you're going to be about 4 to 5 feet maximum away from it.
Right.
Is the best listening. And yeah. That's pretty fantastic. And 40, I think, for me, a kick drum is probably going to be typically pushed around 60 or 70 hertz.
Higher, yeah.
And you're going to pull up about 30 to 40 underneath. So it's going to cover most situations. Then it's just logically using high passing if you can't hear that low anyway. And I have studio monitors that are about $5,000 a pair that don't go below 30.
Yeah.
So that's pretty typical. Yeah.
There is one last thing that is about this stand here. This is adjustable because typically, you know, when you place speakers on a desk, they never point to you correctly. Right. They point like this, and you are listening.
Yep.
So people is used to put books under the speakers or any kind of boxes they might have to try to point them correctly. So this is an adjustable stand that is also decoupling the vibrations of the monitors from the desk. And it's very handy because you can adjust it from 0 to 20 degrees, and this covers pretty much all the needs you need.
Right.
Tilting needs, yes.
That's fantastic. I think we can clearly see the idea is plug it in, and they're ready to go.
Yes.
It's to cover every eventuality.
Yes. Also because the calibration process really takes 5 seconds per speaker.
That's great.
You can show it in that room. It's really, really, really fast. This is another interesting point, is the dispersion. This range can provide a very controlled vertical dispersions, meaning that the reflection from the desk will be minimized at the critical frequencies, mid to high mid frequencies. You see the red area there shows the vertical dispersion of the speaker is considerably narrower to what you find on typical two-ways studio monitors. And this is very useful because when you use them on tables, reflections are terrible. And this is minimizing that a lot.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, thank you. Great work.
Thank you, Warren.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
And you can listen to them over here, yes?
Yes.
Go listen to them.